but there's mice.
Corvid, just so that everyone knows. He has an accent.
So what's creepier in your garden, a bobcat or Colin in his house?
Minus 30. Just like the challenge that keeps on giving year after year.
Or maybe they'll have a rave.
Or they'll have a rave. We're so
You haven't even told the story.
Welcome back to the Helpful Gardeners podcast. Colin, I had a visitor in the neighborhood this week.
A good visitor or a bad visitor?
Yes. I don't know. Depends on I guess that's what we're going to get down to today.
Okay. Was the visitor on two legs knocking on your door asking if you wanted to buy cookies, or was it a quadruped who's awesome to look at and take pictures of?
Well, I can give you a hint. This visitor looked kind of like you. It wasn't you.
Okay.
But it looked like you today.
Oh. Okay, I was thinking tall and shaggy. I'm like, you had like some weird bear like thing. Okay, so black and white stripes. You either had a raccoon or a skunk.
Aha, ding, ding, ding. There was a skunk.
I love skunks.
Oh my gosh. So we went out for a walk, Brad and I, on last weekend. And we all of a sudden hear this scurrying in the tree. And Brad's like, what is that? And he said he instantly saw black and white. And he's like, oh, that's a skunk. And then all of a sudden we hear the scurrying. And at that point, there's still ice everywhere. And then all of a sudden we see it kind of scurry out from the tree. And then our initial reaction was just like, ah! Yep. We completely just vacated the area. And then it just kind of went. I'd never seen a skunk in like broad daylight, just like on its own business.
So we when we lived in the Maritimes, we had a skunk that lived under our baby barn.
Oh.
And when I lived in Montreal, my kudos to the skunk wasn't very pleasant. My dogs got shot point blank range in the face by a skunk.
Oh no.
And I mean, that's the defense mechanism. No, I can't blame the skunk. I mean, the worst part was, so myself and my partner at the time, I let the dogs out. It was late at night. And I opened the door to the yard. I'm not really paying attention. And they took off like a bat out of hell. And I was like, what the? Because they'd seen the skunk. Mm-hmm. Scared the skunk, and they must have got hit from, I'm like a foot away, 2 foot. Mm-hmm. The smell, I was like, oh my dear God, like eyes instantly burning. The dogs are rubbing their face on the ground. The skunk walks away. And I run upstairs. I leave the dogs outside. They can't see anything. They can't breathe properly. They're not going to die, but they're not happy with life.
Yeah.
And I run upstairs to get my partner, and she comes, I shout for her, and she comes walking out, and she's like, what do you want? Dear God! I was like, I really need help.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. So anyway, long story short, we bathed the dogs. We did like the whole tomato juice and the home remedies and the hydrogen peroxide and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, finally we have this under control. Next day, we're going to a friend's kid's second birthday party or something. We're exhausted because we've been up all night doing laundry, bathing dogs. And we go there, we knock on the door, and our friend opens the door, and they're like, holy, did you get hit by a skunk? We're like, we're going home.
They can still smell it, hey?
We'd become nose blind because we'd smelled it so fresh. Mm-hmm. We'd become completely nose blind. I threw away my clothes. They were like sweatpants and a hoodie kind of thing.
Yeah.
I threw my clothes away because I'd been directly with the dogs. We did all of the laundry. We washed the dogs, poor things, must have been like 3 times. Groomed them in between washing them.
Yeah.
Mopped the house, did everything, but then we became nose blind. But you know what? No harm to the skunk. I love skunks.
No, and honestly, that makes me wonder why the skunk smell sticks with you, you know?
I think it's got if what I've heard is true, I've never looked it up. It's because it's actually a scent gland, and it's extremely oily, so it actually gets stuck into paws, and it actually gets stuck into your clothes. Like it's not just on the surface, it's in the fibers.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this says too. It says it's got a sulfur-based chemical compound called thiols, which readily bind to skin proteins, making it very difficult to remove. Oh, long time on clothes and skin.
Yeah, it was not a pleasant time. But you know what? Poor little skunk is just out there eating slugs and snails and helping my garden. And two big mean dogs like, rah, 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 rah. So,
True enough.
Yep.
I love how they have their own like defense mechanism, and our defense mechanism was to just like get out of there, right?
Exactly.
We know.
Exactly. And he didn't fire. You guys didn't get sprayed.
Exactly.
Win-win.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're talking about on today's episode. Who's been digging in the dirt? Who is around your neighborhood, right? Some common critters that you might find in your garden and some of the signs that they leave behind. And I thought we would kind of, because, I mean, you can have critters at all times of the day.
Yep.
In the nighttime, skunks love the cover of darkness. You can also get raccoons in some parts of the country.
Oh, yeah, there's raccoons in Calgary.
I've only seen like a few. I've heard it's really rare.
I've only seen photos.
Yeah.
I've only seen photos. One of them was from a friend of mine, and the only place I've ever seen them mentioned is like Coventry, North Calgary, but they're here.
They're here. I know they're very common out on the West Coast,
And
I
the
imagine, and the East Coast as well. They're known to be very clever. They can dig up plants, of course, raid the compost bins. They love to wash their food in bird baths, so you might find evidence of that.
So
Mice.
do you know what raccoons love to do?
What?
If you plant a garden, so you do a big landscaping project and you plant the whole garden, I don't want to say always, frequently, often, you come back and the raccoons have grabbed the plant and lifted it out. Now, they haven't damaged the plant because they've got little hands.
Oh, my gosh.
They pull out because the ground beneath it, so you plant and you water heavily. The soil is being disturbed, so all the earthworms come.
Oh, so that's what they're there for.
And rooting around for grubs and worms. Now, they may also eat the plant and or sometimes just tear the plant apart because that amuses them apparently. But yeah.
I can see why people don't really like them.
I love them.
Mice and rats. Rats, apparently not so much in Alberta. But we do get mice.
Yep.
Often attracted to compost piles and leftover bird seed, aka my garden shed. So that's a thing. They can also nibble on roots and fruits around your yard. And foxes. I ended up...
This was an accident, everybody. I don't know if you can see. That was an accident. I grabbed my socks last night, not even thinking, busy, and I put them on, and then we talked about this, and I have fox on my socks.
Yeah, you came like weirdly coordinated today.
For fox socks. That's true. Skunk.
Yeah, you came as a skunk and you got the fox representation today.
And I can do a coyote impression.
Wow. What, is there a coyote in here? No. But foxes aren't super common in Alberta. They are here. I've seen them down in Okotoks. I've heard they're down in Nanton. I hear that you'll also find them out on the West Coast. I also heard from my British friend that they are very common in the UK. Yeah. And that apparently they can come in different colors too.
Yeah. There's some beautiful foxes. There's black, there's silver. Obviously, the Arctic fox, that's not here. I have the one place I've heard about them in the city. I haven't seen them. Is down around like Fish Creek and Glenmore.
Oh, cool.
That area. I've heard of them. I haven't seen pictures. I haven't heard, but I have heard people say that they have seen them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be very
for
curious.
what it's worth, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do they do to your garden? They dig up flower beds. They're looking for worms, small rodents. They also like the cover of nighttime.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, some of the daytime wanderers, these are more of the common ones that you might find around your community. Of course, rabbits. Yeah. Lots of rabbits around Calgary.
And we're getting the real bunnies too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen those around.
They used to just be in Bridgeland. I've seen them as far north as Confederation Park.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. They're rabbits.
They're traveling.
They do what rabbits do.
Well, and that's the thing. What do rabbits do? They love to snack on tender greens like lettuce, beans. So basically all the yummy things in your garden.
Yep. Carrots. That's not a cartoon. They will gobble down your carrots.
I think another interesting thing is sometimes if you maybe have a little bit of a secure spot in your yard. I know in my front yard, I've got this little private area, and I notice that the grass always suffers because they always plop themselves down there and they're like, I love it here. I'm just going to keep coming to this one spot. So you might also find some damage to your lawns in that case. Squirrels and chipmunks. Oof, I think we've had an entire episode on squirrels at this point.
Yeah.
They love digging up bulbs.
They love doing everything. They're little vandals. I love them, but come on.
You know, that's one of my favorite videos on the internet, though, is seeing squirrels on bird feeders and like seeing some of the things that you'll do to deter them.
Okay, so years and years ago, I read this article, and some company were doing a prize for the best squirrel-proof bird feeder.
Okay.
So people designed all these traps, and the squirrels were beating them all. And somebody designed one, and it was a pole, had a bar on it, and then it had a tabletop.
Okay.
Okay. Anything over the weight of, and I don't remember this, say 1 ounce. So weighed more than like a sparrow or a finch. Landed on it, the table tipped.
Ooh.
Okay, so this squirrel came, saw the birdseed, jumped on it. Squirrel's on his butt on the ground. Comes running, jumps again, hits the ground. You see him look at it, jumps on the other side, hits the ground. Takes off. Comes back with a friend. And the two of them jumped at the same time. And it went teeter. And then they proceeded to eat all the birdseed.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding. Nope. They're that smart?
They're that smart. And you know, squirrels, technically, I don't think anybody's actually fully tested it, and I sure hope not. Squirrels can't die from fall damage.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Because their body weight and their skin and their flexibility won't allow them to hit the maximum velocity that other things can. So they can fall out of a 40-foot tree, hit the ground, shake it off, and run away.
I mean, like...
They're rad animals.
That's the thing. Like, do you respect them? Or do you just despise them? Like, I feel like it's a love-hate relationship with squirrels, right?
It is.
Okay, next up is deer.
Yeah.
Right? They'll munch on your perennials, vegetables, anything you've got going on. I mean, we love it.
They'll nibble on anything.
Yep. I hear that in the realm of like deer and the bigger wildlife, rural areas also struggle with things like moose or elk.
Well, do you remember that moose that was living in Tuscany?
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently some of the people around there were like... So, do you remember the moose we had here at Golden Acre?
Yeah.
Okay, I watched that moose for a while because I was besotted. And I watched it go down to the riverbank, and there was a willow, and it took its head. I'm going to do my impression here. I'm nailing it today. I'm telling you, I'm on. And the branch came up like this, and it put its head at the base of the branch and went...
Oh.
Every leaf came off.
No.
It must have taken it... a second, 2
What?
seconds, and it just stripped the entire branch, scrunch, swallow, and did the next branch.
On a tree?
Yeah. So, out in the forest where there's a ton of these, no problem, but if you've got some tender trees in your garden and there's a moose in the area, I could see where that might be you'd be like, oh my God, there's a moose. And I have no garden.
Yeah, exactly. This is so cool. And then off to the garden center, right?
Exactly.
I think one of the things that we also should mention is things like coyotes and wolves, especially in rural areas.
Yep.
I know they like to tend to be around nighttime, but you will see the odd one during the day as well.
Yep.
They don't necessarily like go into your garden per se. I think they're more like scavengers for things like mice or things outside of your yard, but they're still in the area.
Other things will bring them in. Now I have read, and it's not common practice, but if food is scarce, they will dig up root vegetables and eat those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have heard of that. I've never seen it. I have a lot of coyotes in my area. Yeah. I don't know if it's the fact that we have Jimmy in the yard. It's fenced in as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are things that will attract them into the yard, and you probably don't want a coyote in your yard.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. If you already have a pre-existing issue of mice, then you're also going to attract the coyote, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, so there's also helpful critters, and we'll briefly mention these as well because I think there is a space for good critters like ladybugs, like spiders, like in some areas of the country, frogs. Right?
Yep.
Even some bats might control populations of mosquitoes in your area. So there's still some good that can be found in your garden.
Well, everything has good.
Yeah.
Everything has good. It might be entertainment value.
Yeah, true.
Okay,
true enough.
It might be entertainment value, but skunks are good for your garden.
They love
eating slugs and snails.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so again, it's learning to live in that balance. But yeah, there are some, like squirrels. I think they're amazing. They make me laugh. I love them. When I see a squirrel, I stop and look at it still. I'm like a kid with ADD or something. I can't help myself. I just think they're so cool.
Yeah.
But I've also watched a squirrel sit on a magnolia, rip the buds off the flower buds, and throw them on the ground. Not even eating them.
No, I've seen that too, and it's very upsetting. You're like, you're not even doing this for a purpose.
Exactly. You want to eat one or two, no problem, we'll share. But you just like...
Yeah. No, something that we didn't touch on, and I think we should also mention, not so much on the ground, but we should also talk about some of the winged ones, because I literally just did a search on this. The smartest garden critter is likely the crow.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this in the past where, you can even train a crow to bring you things.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing when it comes to deterring those kinds of critters can be a little bit more challenging because like the squirrel, they might find ways around it.
Oh, yeah.
Or I think that's what keeps us gardeners going is the ultimate challenge.
Yeah. I was driving down my alleyway, 2 houses down. I'm going grocery shopping or something, it doesn't matter. And I saw a magpie come over the fence, and it was carrying a mouse in its mouth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they will hunt mice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you may think you have magpie or COVID-proofed your garden, but there's mice.
Corvid, just so that everyone knows. He has an accent. Corvid is another word for those predator birds.
Yeah, for that family.
For that family of birds, like crows, magpies, ravens. Okay. Blue jays.
Yep.
Corvid.
But yeah, they'll be attracted to mice. So again, because do you want one of the coolest visitors I ever had in my garden was?
No.
Bobcat.
Oh, you did not.
I did. I was like...
Ooh.
It was minus 30, and it was early in the morning.
Yeah.
So I got up, I looked outside, I can't remember what, and I went to open the door, and there's a bobcat.
Oh, gosh.
And it was probably around minus 30. I got pictures. And Jenny catches me in the middle of the street wearing my slippers and my house coat in minus 30, trying to get better pictures and apologizing to the bobcat because I'd scared him and he left my garden.
You were literally apologizing because you wanted to get pictures and you were scared of scare. Oh, my goodness. And I was like, come on back, buddy. You're welcome in my garden anytime. Well, it's not going to eat my veggies. True. It's not like you have small children or a small dog around where you have to worry about their safety. Like it's literally just you and your house coat. Yeah. Most vulnerable.
Which is probably like even the bobcat's like, actually, sir, you're the creepy one. Bobcat's like, it doesn't appear that I'm the predator.
Swap out that bobcat with anything else and that looks so weird.
So what's creepier in your garden, a bobcat or Colin in his house coat?
Minus
Wake
30.
up in the morning and sit there drinking my coffee.
There's that neighbor again.
Come on, Brandi.
Yeah, your neighbor doesn't even see the bobcat. They're just like, what are you doing? Okay, well... thankfully we don't have any call-in deterrents on this list, but we do want to go over some of the things that you can do to gently deter some of these critters that you might find in your garden. So let's start back at the beginning. Let's go and talk about raccoons and skunks. So some of the things we talked about were, securing trash and compost.
Yep.
So using tight-fitting lids, weighing them down with like a rock or something like that so that they can't get in there. Because I'd imagine raccoons are pretty strong, hey?
Raccoons will undo a nut in a bolt.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was it? Did you ever see Pocahontas, the Disney movie?
No.
So there's a raccoon in there and so resourceful, such a resourceful raccoon.
They're essentially the Canadian monkey.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, absolutely.
They really are. Another good thing you can do as well. So like any wild animal, we've definitely talked about this with birds. Mm-hmm. One of the things they're looking for as well is shelter. So if you have, there's been some washout and some of the road crush has eroded from under your garage or your shed, and you've got a gap this big, block it up.
Oh, okay.
Block it up because the skunk will be like, oh, great home. It'll dig out more than it needs, and away it goes. Just make sure when you when you're blocking it up, that there's no animal in there and whatnot.
Yeah, that would make it worse.
Exactly.
Actually, I talked to my friend Phil today, who mentioned that he heard to gently deter a skunk is to put glow sticks under those crevices. So say you have like a space that you can't fill, then he said put glow sticks in there because they don't like the light and they'll think that they're not safe.
Or maybe they'll have a rave.
Or if they'll have a rave. You're totally right.
DJ skunk. Wicka, wicka, wicka.
What else can you do? Motion activated deterrents. So if you had sprinklers or lights that come on and like they see a little something, something, and then they turn right on and scare them.
Yeah.
Although would that scare the stink out of them?
No. Normally, things like light or water hitting them, they'll just run away from.
Oh, so
they'll just run away. It's predators.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Also removing easy snacks. So, a lot of the things in the mountains, especially, is removing any fallen fruit so that the critters don't come near that. Any pet food that you have out, any open compost bins, like don't make it easy for them.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, so the other day, a couple of weeks ago, Jimmy, for some reason, decided he didn't like the rest of it. So Jimmy, we have to feed him different kibble every time we go grocery shopping because he gets bored with the same food.
Same.
That feels Jimmy.
I'm fine with that all the time. Brad could eat the same thing until the day he died. Not me.
Yeah, so Jimmy's peculiar. Most dogs don't. Jimmy does. And he just refused to keep eating a certain type of kibble. He ate 75% of the bag. Wow. Didn't eat the rest. All right. No problem. So I get him new kibble. I take the old kibble out and I'm going to put it in the compost. Mm-hmm. So being as ridiculously efficient as I have to be, I take out all of the bins at once. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to put them down because I don't want to put them in the snow. So I've got them I've got the recycling over my arm and I'm holding stuff. And the dog food bag can't go in the compost because glossy paper and whatnot. So that has to go in the garbage, but the kibble can. Mm. So I tip it in, except I completely miss and all the kibble goes on the ground.
Oh my God.
Literally, for anybody who looked like what I was doing, I used the compost bin as somewhere to prop the bag so I could pour it more efficiently on the ground. Oh my
gosh. You wanted skunks to visit you.
So I'm like, get rid of the recycling garbage. I'm like, whatever. So I leave. I picked up some of it, but I don't want my hands covered in it. So I did leave it. And there wasn't a ton of it. I went out about an hour later. Oh my God, the amount of crows and ravens and magpies. I was like,
totally.
Oh, I didn't think of that at all. Yeah. Like, I figured something would get it, but there must have been in the tree and on the fence and on the compost bin all combined. There must have been 40 outfits. So I walked out, I'm like, it sounds like a lot of crows. Open the garage door, and they're like,
You know, I did something so similar, but I was even more stupid. I put my compost. So back at our old place, we used to put stuff outside our door, no problem. I put out the compost bag on our front porch.
Like literally on the stoop?
Like outside the door. I was like, I'll get to that later. 2 hours later, Brad goes out and it looked like a crime scene. Oh, yeah, there's like food. I was like, what?
You like literally put out a buffet for them. You're like, help yourself, fellas.
You know what's even funnier? We're sitting, oh my God. It's just so funny because it's like, we're crying.
You haven't even told the story. Oh my God.
Crying. Oh my God. Okay, I can do this.
Okay. Sorry.
We're sitting upstairs in our family room watching TV and we hear the magpies. And there's like you said, like 10 to 12 magpies and just like, brah, brah, brah. And they're right outside. We're like, what is going on out there? Like we literally thought our neighbors were doing something and it was literally us the whole time. Like our neighbors were probably like those idiots.
The neighbors are looking out the window shaking their head. You guys are watching TV being like, our neighbors suck.
Like literally.
Oh my God.
Okay, so That's it. Just don't make it easy for them, right?
They are opportunistic at best. You don't need to put out a feast.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on to mice and rats because, they obviously love to steal the bird seed. So if you have bird seed in your shed, they'll even kind of go through the bag itself. Hey.
Oh, easily.
Like we see that all downstairs in the greenhouse all the time. Like they're right in there.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, and we don't. There isn't enough of them in Alberta to be a problem, but I've seen rats in Montreal, and I've chased a bobcat down the street in -30. I'm not scared of too many animals.
Yeah.
The rat gave me pause.
You're kidding. Why?
Because they are huge. I came around the corner in Montreal. Years ago, I dated a girl who had a pet rat.
Okay.
Okay, and it was great. It was a little white rat.
Oh.
Cute, very intelligent.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. This was not that.
Oh, no.
It was probably about yay big, jet black. And I came around the corner, I'm landscaping, and I come around the corner, and it must have been the distance from me to the camera, maybe double that. And we saw each other, and it lifted up onto its hind legs, and it's big, and it's looking at me, and I'm like, whoa. And then it turned around, this big, and went down a pipe this size.
Wow.
Got its head in, and its body just, and it was gone that quick. And I was like, whew.
Holy moly. Yeah. Okay. I never thought that would be something to be really fearful of. But then again, in Alberta, we don't see them.
And rats my whole life, like, my girlfriend had one as a pet. I knew it was clean. It's great. No problem. But you always hear about rats and rat bites and carrying disease and blah, blah, blah. And it's just this build up to a thing. I don't have a problem with rats at all. Mm-hmm. But that one, normally I see something like a raccoon or a skunk. Yeah, I'm going to give it some distance, but I'm not scared.
Yes.
That one stopped me in my tracks.
Okay. Yeah. So giving them space and not making inviting spaces. I think, again, food scraps, that's probably what they're looking for. So keeping those, keeping the compost tidy. Also, what was interesting is using those, those fake predator things like owls and stuff like that. I think that might also help. Hey.
Yes. Apparently, you have to keep moving them.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, the gist is, again, they're smart creatures, right? It's very easy for us to be like, dumb animal. Mm-hmm. They're not. They've adapted to our world. We didn't adapt to theirs. Yeah. If you put an owl out, they're like, whoa, there's an owl. And then they're like, well, that owl hasn't moved in 2 months.
True.
It's not that scary.
Yeah, true.
And they come in. But if you move your owl weekly or whatever, it's enough of a change that they don't notice it. But when they do, I remember years ago, it was one of the coolest things ever. I was at Fish Creek Park. Yeah. Walking through the park, it was summer, and you can hear the frogs and the bugs and the birds chirping and the animals. And it's that buzz of a forest. Yeah. And then suddenly I heard, and it was an eagle or a hawk. I'm no bird expert. I can't recognize birds from the sounds, but it was a raptor. It was a predator. The forest went silent in a second. Even the bugs shut up.
Oh my goodness, what power.
It was eerie. Yeah. Everybody was like, oh.
Man.
Bunker down.
I'm glad I'm not a predator hawk.
And I was like. That
kind of sounds lonely. Nobody wants you to come around?
You know what? Nobody's being rude, but if every time you came to my house you tried to eat me or ate one of my friends, I might not want you to come around either.
True, okay.
But it was eerie to the point that, when you're in a forest and you hear noise, you're like, this is how a forest should be. Mm-hmm. When you're in a forest and it is quiet, too quiet, you're like, I don't like this one bit.
Oh gosh. Okay. So this can be an effective strategy as long as you move them. Yep. I love that. I also heard that planting mint or lavender can also help because they don't like the strong smell. I have never tried that. I don't know if it's actually true. However, I should ask a lavender farm or something like that. How many rodents do you get?
I've heard of mint. To any great effect, no, I haven't. Never heard of lavender though. Yeah. I don't know. That'd be an interesting one to try out though, if that's a big issue in your yard.
Moving on to rabbits. Again, planting strong smelling herbs might help them. Garlic, basil, rosemary. What can really help is something we've talked about on the podcast before, and that is barriers.
Yeah.
We have lots of ways to do barriers, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bamboo and chicken wire, fabric and stakes, staple the fabric in, anything.
Yeah.
Any kind of physical barrier. Again, they're mainly opportunistic. So if there is no food around for, 10 square kilometers and you protect that, they're going to try and get to it. But you put up enough of a hindrance, they're like, let's see what's next door.
Yes. Also things like that blood meal that you can just sprinkle on your soil. Again, it's like a smell deterrent.
That's the best.
That's the best. Yeah. But that's something where you might have to reapply it, right? Because, if it rains or anything like that.
So one remedy you can do, and I cannot remember the ratio off the top of my head, horticulture oil and blood meal.
Got it.
And the oil stops it from just dissolving in the rain.
Okay.
Now, the other thing I always say is be careful using blood meal. It is a fertilizer.
Okay.
So, and it's a high nitrogen. So when I lived in Mount Pleasant a decade ago now, I guess, my yard was like ground level. It wasn't raised planters or anything. And there's a ton of rabbits. I did blood meal all around the perimeter.
Yeah.
Now the grass around that got that much longer than the rest of the grass because of the high nitrogen.
Yeah.
But the rabbits would not come in and eat my vegetables.
They wouldn't cross it.
I grew lettuce, kale, arugula, cauliflower, tomato, you name it. I grew it in a constructed bed in my front yard, and not one rodent touched it.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so that might be something to try out if that's an issue in your garden.
Apparently, the methodology is because it is blood.
Yeah.
And they smell blood. They believe a predator is in the area.
Oh. That would make sense then, yeah.
So they smell the blood and they go, oh, something must have died here. There is a predator. Let's go elsewhere.
Yeah, which is why they wouldn't go anywhere near it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the methodology.
It makes sense to me. Absolutely.
I mean, if I walked into a room and it's covered in blood, I'm probably walking back out of the room.
True enough. That's why we don't like hospitals.
Exactly. You walk in, you're like, oh, this is a nice room. No, it is not.
Squirrels and chipmunks. I mean, we talked about this earlier. It's just like the challenge that keeps on giving year after year. You could try things like decoy predators again, but again, you're going to have to move them.
Yep.
Obviously, finding bird feeders can be a bit of a challenge too. If you're feeding birds in your yard, you might get the squirrel as well. So that's something. I think like there are certain bird feeders out there where you can sort of target the smaller birds. Isn't that right?
Yep. Yeah, there's some that have got the trap.
Yeah.
So anything bigger, a crow, a squirrel gets on it, it just closes. And they can't get the food. Something else I've heard as well, and we talked about this on the podcast a couple of months ago, about a woman who'd been fighting with the squirrels in her bird feeders.
Yeah.
And she finally beat them. She finally figured out a way that the squirrel couldn't get to her bird seed, and she looked outside one day and the squirrel was sitting there all sad. So she put up a feeder for the squirrel. But as much as I absolutely love that story and love that woman and the squirrel, that can be something else you do. Set them up a feeder away from the rest of your garden.
Oh, yeah. Make that easier to get to than the other one.
So if you've got them and you cannot get rid of them, you try baffles and decoy predators and blood meal, and they are still coming because they love that food. Put something up elsewhere. And just be like, that's your area. You good? You do that, we're cool.
Yeah.
Most of them will.
Yeah. I would love that. Foxes, I would say kind of the same thing as more physical barriers. I think foxes, at least in Alberta, are more of an issue in the rural communities. A lot of dens, like they'll build dens on the lesser used,
I gotta say, if I had a fox in the area, I'd be building things to encourage.
I know, right? Like, and that's exactly it. Like, I understand that they can do their own little bit of mischief in your yard, but they're so rare here. Like, you'd kind of
I wouldn't. I've done enough in nature and nature photography. I don't encourage wild animals. I leave them wild.
Yeah.
It's difficult sometimes, like I've been so close to a bighorn sheep. And it came close to me. I did not go close to it. I could have pet it, and it took restraint.
Oh, wow.
I was like, yeah, just a little scratch.
No!
But I respect them enough to not do that because if they attack me, which they are well within their right to do, they'll be destroyed. I won't. And that's not fair. So I wouldn't actually lure a fox in, but if I saw one, I wouldn't be mad.
No, absolutely not. We'll also talk about deer because there are actually some natural ways that you can prevent deer through the use of what kinds of things you plant. So there's deer-resistant shrubs, but there's also deer-resistant bulbs. So you can plant things like daffodils or marigolds, like annuals. They don't like the smell of that. Barberry kind of has more of like a physical type of barrier. I love the idea of planting to prevent it. It's like the easiest natural way to do it, right?
Yeah. If you can find the aesthetic or the food or whatever that you like and the deer doesn't, that's the win.
That's the win. I also really loved when you brought up on one podcast, I can't even remember what we were talking about at the time, but you said hanging bars of soap. You used to do this in your landscaping years. So can you just like remind us what you did to do that?
So ideally you want to take something thin like nylons. And you put in a really, really strong smell. Irish Spring is what we used. And just tie it at nose level for the deer. And the strong smell tells them that there's a human in the area.
There you go.
They can't see it, but they can smell it.
Yes.
And they stay away. Again, change the fragrance every few weeks, every month. Because again, if they constantly smell it, but they see no activity, their brains will tell them it's safe. Just get over it.
Okay.
So change it up for deodorant or a different type of soap or something. But some strong detergent smell, they've associated that smell with people. So they back away.
So smart. One thing that we didn't talk about when we were kind of going through our first list of the kinds of critters you can have is voles. This is something that we get, asked about on a yearly basis, and it's a lot to do. Like if you live next to a natural area or like a golf course or something like that, they just kind of wander on in.
Vast majority of the time when somebody comes, I have a problem with voles, I go, do you back onto Nose Hill or a park? And they go, yes. Like almost
How did you know this?
Like, were you the guy in the house coat? But so what happens is voles' number one predator are birds of prey. Okay, the little critters, the heads are down, they're not looking up, and they're a perfect snack for a smaller raptor. In the summer, when those areas are wild, big shrubs, tall grasses, they have all the shelter they need. But come early spring, especially, or in the late autumn, if we have a really nice autumn and everything has gone down, there isn't viable food for them there because nothing is as alive as much, and they are more exposed. So they come to our gardens. Then the snow cover. Now they're protected in the snow. No predator can get them. And they just make the little tunnels under the snow and chomp your lawn away till the herd's content.
Yeah, and how long does it take to get your lawn back after a vole attack?
A season or two, depending on how much work you want to put into it. You're top dressing, you're putting down seed. But if you don't get rid of the voles, you're doing it every year.
Exactly. And that sort of almost seems out of your control too, right? Because like there's really not much you can do to deter them, is there?
So in the summer, they're going to go back to the natural area. Because there's more cover, there's more shelter, there's more of the type of food they want. What you want to do is late summer, do a perimeter spray of your yard with something like plant skid or a blood meal mixture. Cover it. They come onto your yard, they're like, oh, predator, and they'll either run back to that area or go to your neighbors who didn't use plant skid. Good voles make good neighbors.
That's interesting, though. You're kind of like, you're almost like outsmarting them because you're figuring out the season that they're active and then just applying like a preventative measure. And I love preventative measures.
100%.
The best.
Yeah. And anything that doesn't hurt the animal but establishes a safe boundary, I'm all about that. We want to grow our gardens. I don't mind sharing, but I don't want my garden destroyed.
Yes.
But I also don't want the animal destroyed.
Exactly.
It has the right to be there. It's part of the ecosystem. We can learn to get along. But if I can dissuade you or encourage you to eat elsewhere, we can work together.
Yeah, and that's exactly what today's episode was all about. I'm actually curious to hear what you're dealing with in your garden. Do you get rats? Do you get wolves and coyotes? Do you get deer? Do you get squirrels? I would assume you get squirrels. If you didn't get squirrels, I don't know where you're living.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. I gotta say, if I saw a wolf in my garden, I'd definitely go for scritches.
I would question a lot of things. Feel like, why are you here?
That would be the main question.
What did I do wrong? But that does wrap us up for this week. If you're listening over on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, thank you so much for your support. Make sure you're following us. Tell your friends about us. And don't miss out on future episodes. Make sure you're subscribed. We also have this awesome thing on our website at goldenacre.ca where you can leave us a voice note. So if you have an interesting story about a garden critter in your yard and you want to share it with us, we would love to hear it, feature you on the podcast. So you can do that over at goldenacre.ca. We're also on Instagram at The Helpful Gardeners Pod. Give us a follow there. We do a lot of cool stories and polls and everything over on that platform. We love this community and hope that you'll join us for next week for more gardening fun.
Bye, everyone.